welcome to another episode of Paranormal, the New Normal. I am your host, as always, Jeremy, trying to bring a little more normal to this world, but these days that's hard to do. And today, though, we might accomplish it a little bit. We might. We're going to try. We're going to try. But as always, I have a guest to help me try to accomplish this. And my guest today is Tracey Whittet, who is many things, but she is a healer, a multidimensional body balancer, a Reiki master, I never can say that word right, and much, much more that we'll get into as we go. But first things first, how you doing tonight, Tracey?
I'm doing really well. I was looking forward to this conversation, so thanks for having me.
Oh, it's of course my pleasure. Glad I could have you on. But the first question I ask everybody on this show is, what got you into the paranormal / spiritual world?
Wow. I think I came in this way, but you know how people have trauma or death experiences? When I was 5 years old, my guppy died, my little fish. And it makes you think about things differently, deeper. And I've always been drawn, like my soul or my essence has always been drawn to the invisible realm. I never felt like I fit in. I thought everybody else knew what they were doing and everybody else was normal. And I was the only one that was weird. But now I know that's not true at all. And that I did know what I knew. I do know what I know, even though I don't know anything, if that makes sense. Everything's a mystery. So I think really probably trauma, death, things like that happen in a person's life can cause you to go deeper and question things and ask about things. And then you can kind of look at the superficial world and go, is this all there is? Is this it? Is this really all there is? And I know that that's not true. So I would say death, which is not super happy, but that's kind of what happened. Yeah.
I mean, well, as somebody who's playing a Harry Potter game right now, I can tell you death leads to a lot of things. But and I mean, death opens up more worlds than life does in a way. So I completely understand that, and it makes sense. I mean, I was always the same way. I never felt like I fit in. I felt like everybody else had a knack for what's going on in the world, and I couldn't figure it out. Like that was in my life basically for a long time, and so I get that. I can agree with that. It's just the world's a strange place, and embracing the paranormal is just a way to try to understand what everybody else doesn't understand yet.
Right. You want to kind of see what you can't see because it's curious and it exists. So yeah, I get that.
And if you can't find a place among what already is in existence, find a place in what has yet to be found. Discover something that will make you unique in this world. Like that was always my goal.
Yeah. Wow, you got that young. I mean, that's wise.
Well, when you spend a lot of time by yourself, you have a lot of time to think. But
there you go. Okay. Cool.
It works. It works at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
But let me ask you this. Have you had any experiences with anything paranormal, whether it be spirits, extraterrestrials, cryptids? Take your pick.
Yes. You're talking to one right now. An extraterrestrial. I always used to go, oh my God, why are people so into UFOs? That is so silly. And I didn't even realize that I was one. You know what I mean? It was like fish in water. You don't realize you're in water. When my father passed away, a couple days later, I was in my house. I lived in Northern Virginia at the time where I was raised and grew up. I remember looking into the kitchen from sitting in the living room or the dining room. I think it was the kitchen. And I saw this white spiral smoke go up. And all I could think of was, I think that was my dad. And I have wild experiences on the inner. We lived in Colorado for a while. And my son Dylan and I, he was like 5. And we're riding our bicycle. He's in the back, right? And I'm toting him along. We're going along. It's called Highway 66 from Longmont, Colorado to Lyons, Colorado. And I'm riding my bike and I hear Dylan say, "Oh, poor kitty." I'm like, what the heck is he talking about? And then I look over to this field to the right and I see these horses. And I'm thinking to myself, good morning. And I swear to God, the horses said good morning back to me, and I was freaked out. Then about a mile up the road, after Dylan had said, "Oh, poor kitty," there was a dead cat on the side of the road. I'm like, how did he do that? So I think it's in our family. I think that there's so many experiences. One time we were up at the Stanley Motel, which is in Estes, Colorado.
Yes.
Right? And my friend Mary, she's another mom. You know, our kids were the same age. And she did ghost tours, and we call her Scary Mary. It's just really funny. But there were, you could feel things. We did our own private ghost tours in the concert hall, and we had all this equipment that I don't know what it's called, but you can tune into like a radio dial. I swear to God, we all heard them say, the spirits say Dylan. I mean, not only just me, but others heard it. So you know that there's spirits around. And so we were in the basement of this concert hall, and no one's there. And there were these wide stairs going up to the upstairs part. And I'm just standing there waiting for something to show up or to see something or feel something. And I wasn't getting anything, but I had my camera with me. So I took a picture of the stairs as my son Dylan was walking up the stairs. Later, when I looked at those photos, there were orbs following him all the way up the stairs. And then there was this one orb. You know what an orb is, right? Like a ball of light. Looks like a full like that.
I just posted a video on TikTok last week of one in my garage.
Wow, cool. So you do know. So one of these pictures had like a brilliant white full moon bright light. And I showed it to a friend of mine, Todd, and he goes, "That's your mom." I'm like, whoa, you know, because she had passed on. And so, you know, those are from outer experiences that I've had, like with the paranormal. But I had a friend that I was driving. I don't know why all this Colorado stuff's coming up, but I had this friend that I was in my car, and we were driving up the driveway to park at the Stanley. This is another time. And the spirits, I don't think, wanted her there, because all of a sudden the visor flipped down and something flew in her face. And she's like, whoa. So, you know, are there malevolent spirits? Yeah. Are there good spirits? Yeah. Like when Dylan was born, I had a home birth. We lived in Haymarket, Virginia. And I had a home birth, and I was like exhausted after that.
Of course.
And I was laying there, and I saw in my mind's eye, these two huge angels, huge, like two maroon robed with golden wings, or maybe it was golden robes with maroon wings. All I know is that they ushered him in. I knew without a doubt that that's what happened. I've had so many, you know, I want to call them coinky dinks, you know, like so many experiences where, how did that happen? Like one time I wanted to get a job the next day. Like I needed to get a job. I had $8 in my checking account or something crazy. It was a long time ago. And I had this dream. And in the dream, someone was showing me around this office building and stuff. And then the next day I had this interview that was already scheduled. And then this person was taking me around on this tour of this building. And I swear to God, it was my dream. So I've had premonitions, things like that. So I knew I was going to get the job, and I did get the job, and I accepted the offer, and I started like the next day. So that was like super. It was super great. But now things are a little bit more potent. I'm older now, and I've had more experience. I always worked in corporate America, you know, and
of course.
And you know, I could fit in that environment, but it was never satisfying. So I always took energy work classes on the side. So I was in the householder path, you know, being a mom, a full-time wife, full-time worker, raising 2 stepchildren plus our son. And I always did energy work on the side. And one time I was working with my ex-husband, and he was laying on the bodywork table, and all I had were my hands. It was access consciousness, and it was a body process. And I had my hand on the crown of his head. He's laying on the bodywork table, and I think on his sacrum in the back. And everything started spinning like when you're going on a swing, and it goes up and back, and then it kind of went around in a circle. This is all on the internet. It was very dizzying. It was very wild. Another time, a friend of mine's best friend passed away in a serious car accident, tragic car accident. We were teenagers. And we were in Virginia, and we're sitting there by the gravesite. All of a sudden, I started saying things that I don't normally say, like, "Oh, you know, Debbie, she's okay. We're look at that. There's the statue of Jesus right there, and we're sitting on the right side of him. So she's in a good place." And I don't know. I was just saying stuff, and I ran back to my car to get my camera. And as I was running back to my car, running across the green grass, I swear to God, it was like I was just taken out of my body, because I could look down and see from a different perspective. So there's things like that that happen to me that I cannot explain. I don't know what's going on. I admit that. I just don't know, but I know that it's real, and I know that it happens. And I think the juice is on the inner realms. I think the invisible stuff is where it's at. That's what I like the best.
Yeah, I mean, it's been theoretically put out there that there are multiple dimensions, and we sometimes can access other ones either randomly or with enough control of our inner being.
Right.
But, so, I mean,
yeah.
Maybe, I mean, they say those that eventually can control it have it happen randomly at first, just kind of like as a tease, like, you could do this, but you got to practice more. You got to practice.
It is a discipline. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've been told by so many mediums in this show that I need to meditate, and I'm just like, who has the time? But
a minute, just take 1 minute, because what you're doing is connecting with yourself, right? It's all one thing.
Yeah. I mean, I personally like to think I do meditate at times. I just don't consciously realize it, but it's just, I don't know.
Yeah. If you're focused on one thing, like, not that you're going to knit, but if you were knitting or posting letters or doing dishes or vacuuming or taking a shower, oh my God. I mean, you know, you're just focused, and that's kind of like being present. Think about oxygen. You know, you can't breathe past oxygen, and you can't breathe future oxygen. You can breathe present oxygen. And that's when you're a really cool spiritual exercise you could try if you want, is just to, when you breathe in, like breathe in through your heart chakra in the center, you just take a breath in, imagine that the divine or spirit or whatever you want to call it is exhaling. And then when you exhale, the divine is inhaling. So it's like a connection. Because I think that's what it's all about, is connecting to, some people call it higher power, God, goddess, source, prime creator.
Yeah, there is a lot of names for it, but that makes sense, actually. That does make sense. And I've heard similar things before. That it does make sense, though. And maybe I do just, I mean,
you can just do it in one breath.
Yeah, I mean, I am a recently unemployed person for my real job.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. It happens, but for my real job. So I am currently in the process of trying to get a job, and it's a lot of time spent. But it's fun applying for jobs nowadays.
I bet.
Take these 5 assessments after you already filled out the application. But
yeah, we want to make sure you're a fit in our culture that's going to control you. Sorry, I have an attitude, I guess.
oh God, no! Trust me, I agree. I agree 100%.
But do what you love. That's what you got to do. And I get it about the money thing.
Well, it's funny because when I posted it on Facebook the day after I lost my job literally a week ago today, basically. I had one of the former people on my podcast actually said, she's like, I don't know if this is accurate, but I'm getting a reading that you just need to focus on your podcast and monetize it.
Ooh.
And I'm like,
and if you love it, yeah.
I do love it. As all my listeners know, I live for my podcasts because I do have multiples. And I mean, but it's just, I don't know. Part of me feels like it's not the point yet where I can monetize it. Like I'm not big enough yet to do that. I don't think. I mean, I'm starting to work on it anyway, just to see if the guides are pushing me in the right direction to do something. But I don't ever take anything a medium or psychic tells me and just throw it out. Like I always try to use it in some way. But
yeah, well, that's the part about connecting with yourself and trusting what you get. Follow your own guidance from the inner, because that's powerful compared to anybody else that has their own filter that is reading through the field, if you will. You know, it's like, what does your soul want? Woo! Sometimes I clear just through my nervous system and I don't even know why. It's like I truly am a vessel. I truly am a vehicle. And every day, what I do is I call in, I declare myself a vehicle for the divine. And if you have belief systems like Christianity might say, I declare myself a vehicle for God. I declare myself a vehicle for Jesus. I declare myself a vehicle for the Holy Spirit. You know, and then I say, I declare myself a vehicle for me, for my soul, for soul. And then just see what happens, you know, because if you follow the energy of what is light and true for you, miracles happen and your life just flows so much better. You know how it is, like if you get invited to go somewhere, party or whatever, and you say yes, but you really didn't want to go, and then you do go and it like sucked.
Yeah.
It's because you're not following the energy that's true for you. And that's what I did in corporate America. And I don't guess I have too many regrets, but that would be the one regret, if I had to state one, that I should have followed my heart more so than, but conditioned responses are really powerful in our environment. Like that's what I got to do. I got to work in corporate America Monday through Friday, you know, and be a slave for dollars and all that stuff. And I didn't follow my true nature, and that's okay. I'm where I'm at now. And, you know, I would kind of think that if you don't feel fully comfortable with just working on the podcast, that you do both. You look for work as well as continuing the podcast. At least that's what I did with corporate America. I would go to work, but then I would study and take workshops on the weekends and evenings and stuff like that in energy work, because that was my interest. And now I let the corporate stuff go, and now I just do the energy work. And I don't want to even minimize it by saying just. I mean, it's pretty darn cool what happened for me. Can I share with that with you? How this
please tell us about your road, getting down that road to getting to where you are now. That's
so, like, I'm like a teenager and I'm at the pool. You know how you lay out and you play at the pool and all that stuff. And I'm reading a book, and I'm reading about what your doctors never told you about nutrition. What teenager does that? I mean, I don't know if I was a nerd or what, but I've always been interested in holistic health. Well, studied this thing called A Course in Miracles. Not sure if you've ever heard of it, but the lady in the neighborhood had a Sunday night group, and she massaged my feet. She did reflexology on me, and she goes, you should come and study A Course in Miracles with us. I'm like, okay. But it's like spiritual psychotherapy in a way, and it makes you diminish your ego. It was difficult. Like, one of the first lessons was, nothing in this room means anything. It's like, what do you mean it doesn't mean anything? You know, and your mental body keeps going. But anyway, this teacher said, you should take Reiki. I'm like, okay, what's that? So I took the Reiki class, and then 10 years later, I took it again, because I thought, oh, if you don't use it, you lose it. And that wasn't true at all, at least in my case. And then I took Reiki 2, and then I took Reiki 3. So I'm in Colorado, and I'm doing Reiki with someone, a stranger, actually. I put my business card at a health food store or whatever on Main Street in Longmont. And she came, and she was on the bodywork table, and I had my hands on her torso, and I'm just like, you know, doing the Reiki thing and just being the conduit. And I heard this word, transmosis. And I'm like, what? So I had a whiteboard behind me, so I wrote it down really quick. Because, you know, when you're doing energy work, you can kind of get altered yourself. So I didn't want to forget it. And I asked everybody, what does transmosis mean? Like channelers, you know, spiritual leaders, nobody could tell me. So I started doing my own research, like looking up prefixes like transformation, transmutation. What does transmosis, trans mean? And it was like something like you pass through a barrier, something like that with this trans thing. And then, not to what the name is today for people's gender. I don't mean that at all. I just mean about changing, but it's
of course,
very appropriate, actually, now that I think about that. But then there's osmosis. And I'm like, what is osmosis? And I don't remember science. I'm not a really great science person, but I love physics and stuff like that. But osmosis is like you have a lesser concentration and it passes through a membrane. It gets sucked through to a stronger concentration.
Yep.
So nobody could tell me what transmosis means, right? So I said, okay, I'm going to go within and I'm going to ask, what is transmosis? And the definition, and I do not talk like this, so I know it was channeled or from spirit. And I'm going to read it because I don't want to botch it up because I get nervous. Transmosis is an unconscious transfer and assimilation of higher energies to raise the recipient's energy to equal the source energy. So that's kind of a broad brush stroke of this. So each and every individual person is on their journey. Let's just say it's a path, a golden path, yellow brick road, whatever. And everybody's in their own space of consciousness. Everything that they've learned, everything they've brought in, because I believe in past lives, every other incarnation we've ever had, we bring all those skills and talents in. And I think that's what happened for me, is I must have done a lot of work in a previous incarnation to be able to do what I do now. And what I do now is I help people do etheric clearing or spirit mending. It's all in the invisible world. And we clear what no longer serves you. And I say we, because the first time I had an energetic clearing from the teacher that I took this class from, Multidimensional Body Balancing, she said, okay, let's call in your guides of 100% pure divine light. And honestly, I was thinking, what the heck? Why do you have to say 100% pure divine light? Because I thought I was working with Saint Germain and the Great White Brotherhood and all these spiritual, hierarchy, spiritual realms and people and beings and angels and such. But she called in my guides of 100% pure divine light. And then there's this huge pause, like silence. And I'm like, what's going on? And she goes, oh, there's a changing of the guard. I'm like, what? I thought I was working with the highest of high, the holiest of holy, but I wasn't. So now I tell everyone, call in 100% pure divine light and ask for your highest and greatest good for yourself and for all concerned. That's really it. And so any of those energy work classes that I have taken, the common denominator for my essence is to share what I hear and I see. And I don't really consider myself a clairvoyant. I do consider myself clairaudient, because it's like I take dictation. It's like I'm a divine ventriloquist. And when I share what I hear and I see, when we're clearing energies from someone's bodies, and we have 6 of them. One is physical and the rest are all invisible. And I can go into those if you want. But we also have a nervous system, chakra system, endocrine system, and energies can get stuck in those parts of our anatomy, our spiritual anatomy, our physical anatomy. And it takes a really long time, if you think about it, for something to manifest in our physical body. It's like a repetitive pattern that you think, or an emotion that you always have, like anger or whatever. But it could have originated in your soul body or your etheric body or your mental body or the causal body, where you have past lives, Akashic records, cellular memories, emotions, all those things.
If you ask my wife, my constant emotion is anger. But
oh,
I don't agree with that. But I think I'm a really happy person. But I mean, that's how she sees. But
it's, you know what? Every one of us has a core wound. And I learned this not from my intuition, but I learned this outside of myself through the Gene Keys. I don't know if you've heard of that group, but GeneKeys.com. Oh, hi. Hi there. Hey, cuteness. And we all have a core wound. And when you have anger, it could be a core wound of rejection. It's just something you were born with. Like I was born with repression, which is like fear. And that kind of makes sense why I stayed in the corporate world forever and before I stepped out to be who I am, and all those persecution memories, I don't want anyone to kill me and burn me at the stake or any of that stuff that I think may have happened,
Yeah, like a fear of the unknown almost, kind of. That's why you didn't want to move on.
Right. I needed the job. I wanted stability, So, yeah. Security. Is that your son, daughter?
That's my co-host and daughter, who likes to get foot scratches while I'm podcasting, apparently.
What a sweetheart. That's great.
She knows she's got daddy wrapped around her little finger, but
Aw, how sweet. So what else can I tell you? It's just like a word that came, and then
Well,
everything. Now I've just created something. Like I synergized everything together. And I have a certain way that I help people. I ask you guys to tell me, what do you want to work on physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually? And then I used to work down in Albuquerque. I live in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and I used to work down in Albuquerque at a psychic fair, and people would sign up and have, 20-minute Transmosis healing sessions, and I can get a lot done in 20 minutes, but it was like, wow, it was difficult. And sometimes people wouldn't know what they wanted to work on. So I wanted to make sure that I was being of the highest and greatest service to them. So I created a map, and it's pretty much everything that I've ever learned about clearing and where it could be and what it could be. And then have you ever heard of muscle testing or applied kinesiology?
what was the word after applied? You cut out for a second.
Applied kinesiology?
Yes, I actually had a kinesiologist on my show at one point. And so I have heard of it. I'm not going to say I'm a master of knowing what it is, but I have heard of it.
It's okay. It's kind of like a neurological response. Like if you go to the doctor and they pound your knee with that little mallet, and it just is a knee-jerk response. It's like that.
A reflex.
It's a neurological muscle. Mm-hmm. So applied kinesiology is like energy in motion, and you tap into it. So a lot of chiropractors use it, and they test your deltoid muscle. So they push on your wrist and they say, think of something true, and you do, and your arm stays strong. And then they like, my name is Jeremy, wonk, because that's not true. My arm would go down. So that's what I do. I call in your guides. I call in my guides. I ask us to be perfectly pure consciousness, all of that. And then I ask to be shown, and I touch the words on my map, and I muscle test with my fingers and I get a true or false response. And what I'm doing is I'm learning to trust myself more and more. The more I practice, some people use a pendulum. Some people can just muscle test. Even our bodies are like pendulums. People can stand up. You can be in a grocery store and say, oh, should I get oranges or should I get apples? And you can stand there and look at the oranges. And if your body leans forward, that's true for your body because your body never lies. Or if you look at the apples and your body kind of sways back, nope, not apples today. I'm going to get chocolate cake instead. No, I'm kidding.
The temptation is real on that one, but yeah.
For sure. So yeah, I just ask questions of spirit. And the more I've done it, the more accurate and the more detailed and pinpointed it is to really serve in a sacred way for individuals, to give them what is in their highest and greatest good. And a lot of times, you know what? We have energy in our field and our systems that isn't even ours. So like our ancestors, we inherited genes through the DNA.
Yeah, of course.
And our ancestors had trauma. They had misperceptions. They had stuff that happened a long time ago. And we're unconscious about it. Like, again, transmosis is unconscious transfer. So we can call in your mom and dad's side of the family X amount of generations back, and we can clean up the generational line, which frees you up in this body, in this timeline, as well as for your children going forward. So you can clean up energies that get stuck in the past in trauma that they think is still happening. And I give energies personality like they think, but I do believe that energy doesn't get destroyed and that it still could evolve and keep,
Well, that's exactly what Einstein said. I mean, energy can't be destroyed. It can only be moved or changed. It can't be destroyed,
right.
Which it makes sense. So that makes sense.
So we just clean it up. Yeah, we clean it up with, and I don't do it, but again, I'm the ventriloquist, so to speak, and I share, it's spiritual hygiene. We're just cleaning up your energy bodies and helping your physical body and your life in this present time. Remember the oxygen in the present moment. I mean, it's like, what can I do to be everything I can do and be in this lifetime? Like, is it true that maybe before we came through our parents, that we had a meeting and we said, okay, I'll go back to Earth. I want to learn this, this, and this. I'm not going to make those mistakes anymore. I have a fantasy that that's what happens, and that we choose our parents, and that we choose what happens in our life. But when we're here and we're awakened and we're conscious, we think about things, we can choose what to do, what is right. And that's why I rely on the muscle testing, asking the questions like with the sway forward or back, follow the energy that is true and light for you, and your life will be so much better. And yeah, there might be karmic lessons, things like that you need to have. I don't know, but I want to honor that. I also want to honor the dark, because there's light and dark. And I think dark is just a lower frequency of the light. And a lot of times our ancestors, have those energies that are stuck, and we just clean those up with violet light, purple light, transmute it. And you know how the universe likes a vacuum? We just fill it back up with liquid golden light so that nothing dark or negative would fill it back up. So it's very sacred work, and it's difficult to talk about. So I was thrilled that you said yes, that I could be on your show, because
I love this type of stuff, because
really?
I've talked to multiple people about past life readings. I was supposed to have one done months ago, but she got busy with family emergency, and I never really reached out to her again to get it going, which I'm thinking now might be a good time to get back to her. And I feel like I need to do it at this point. Like, while I'm trying to figure out my path forward, I need to figure out my path backwards first.
See where you've come from. See what
exactly.
Yeah, it's all information to help you formulate a new choice in this present oxygen moment.
Exactly. I mean, and it's especially like vital to me, I think, because I am a donor baby. My dad couldn't have kids, so I don't really know. I mean, I know who my bio dad is because of Ancestry.com. Thank you. But other than that, not sponsored, but you could be. But besides that, like, that's all I know. I don't know anything about I know his family history generically, but I don't know like his true history of his family.
Is he still on the planet that you could you connect? Is that okay to connect?
Yeah, I mean, he lives out in the West Coast. I live on the East Coast, so one of us would have to fly somewhere, and we'd have to arrange it. And I mean, I just never really. I talked to him back and forth on email a couple times, but it just, I had a good father, so I'm not lacking that whole my life,
Right, but biology, interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
you know, for family history.
Well, yeah, I have about 12 half brothers and half sisters altogether that I know about so far because of him being a donor. So one of my half sisters, one of the first ones to figure out who he was, put together like a binder for any new brothers and sisters that come into the fold that has all the information we would need. So I have that kind of information. It's just, I don't know, like, spiritually who his family was, or where they came, or what their purpose was, or where they came from.
Fascinating.
Yeah. So
that's fascinating. What is that like? I mean, you already have a fabulous father, so
I mean,
interesting.
If you see, the problem is I can't picture what it's like if you come from a bad home when you don't like the father that you thought was your father all your life. When you come from a home where you have a good father, you're not missing anything. You don't think, at least, so you don't go looking for something, like, because you're not missing anything. I had a great father, and he passed back in 2017, unfortunately, but he wasn't meant to live a long life. I accepted that a long time ago, but he was a great man. So I mean, I never was missing anything. So when I found this guy, I was like, all right, cool. At least I know where some of my looks come from now. But other than that, like, that's all I need to know. like that's all. At that time, at least. But
yeah, that's fascinating. Wow. So
yeah, I mean, it makes you think, though. Like, until today, I never actually like thought about that in a spiritual way. And the way you're talking about past lives just kind of all came together in my head, and I was like,
yeah, because your biological mother and biological father had two parents who had two parents who had two parents. And it just like, it's a huge ancestry line that has a lot of energies and stuff. And we don't need to go into the stories of it, but we can certainly just clean it all up like a broad brushstroke, and support you.
Interesting.
It is. It's fascinating. I never thought about it before until I got into all this energy work and such. But I think of it as natural. I think it's intuition. I think it's natural. I think it's our birthright. I think that the environment, like our world that we live in now, is feeling like it's even more conscious than ever before. Like I almost feel like the sun and the moon and the stars, and it's much more potent now. At least that's how it feels. Or I'm getting more and more sensitive, one or the other, or both.
Well, let me ask you this, because this kind of got my curiosity peaked. Can transmosis healing be done only in person, or can it be done remotely as well?
Definitely remotely and in person. Yeah. I kind of like it remotely on Zoom or wherever better, because the person can just chill, because you get altered,
Yeah.
and you can just chill, and you don't have to rush to your next appointment or drive away or whatever. Yes, it definitely works long distance. I learned that in Reiki. You could even, when I was learning long distance Reiki, you could use a teddy bear as a surrogate or whatever. But I think just on the phone or on video, it works perfectly. It works really deeply. People have told me, and I'm not bragging, but people, and it's not me, it's the work, it's transmosis is what's doing it, that it's changed their life. And I don't know what that means. Like I can work with someone and it's all in the invisible realms, and I'm sharing what I hear and I see, and it's stories and it's words and images and all of these things. And then they go away and I don't know. And then I get these testimonials back and they go, I just have to tell you, I'm still integrating. And I realize that I am love and that I am loved and all of that stuff. It's really cool. So it changes their life.
I'm trying to do a podcast, Bella.
The better.
But yeah, I mean, it sounds really interesting. I mean, all this stuff, like I never heard of Reiki until about 6 months ago, and I never because like that's why I love episodes about like spiritual stuff, because that's the side of the paranormal I never really knew. I knew the cryptid side, the alien side, the spirit side. Like I knew the creepy side that everybody loves, but the spiritual side I didn't know it was up and coming like it is, and now it's a huge thing. I mean, the idea of spiritual awakenings is a huge topic nowadays, as I found out over the last almost a year doing this podcast. So, my year anniversary is coming up.
What a gift! What a gift for you, because that's ascension. You're just increasing in frequency and vibration, and you can see not myopically. You can see all around. You can see from a soul perspective, in a sense. We forget because we're in this body, we forget.
Exactly.
Like I'm going to be all present, and I meditated this morning, so I'm great. And then you go to work, and then you're all focused on work or whatever. And then, I'm supposed to be present, and you just pull yourself back. It's almost like we reparent ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I say this all the time on this show, so my listeners know it, but whenever I'm talking to someone who's a spiritual type person, whether it be a medium, a psychic, clairvoyant, clairaudient, I've talked to all the different names for them you could think of, but there's like a feeling I get in the center of my head, like something's trying to happen. And I don't like to say, like, I've had some people say, oh, that's your guide trying to talk to you, but it's not able to connect for some reason. Like it's just there. It can't connect to you and actually say things to you. And I'm like, and that's when they say, oh, you need to meditate. And I'm just like, okay. I don't know. It just doesn't seem
nice to have a guide. It's really nice to have a teacher, and it's not like the guru, like I know better than you kind of a guru person.
Yeah.
But it's someone that's already been there and done that and can reflect and hold your hand and help you carry on and go deeper in your own self. Because my experience, when I read that book by Neil Donald Walsh, what was it called? Conversations with God.
Oh, okay.
When I read that book, oh my God, I was like, I do that. I didn't know that God sounded like my own thoughts. That's new. It's not like, you are wonderful, son. It's not, it's your own.
Yeah.
It's like
it's
you.
it's not Simpsons with the big yellow finger pointing down at you, talking to you in a deep voice, you know.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like funny. And it's not like some white-haired bearded guy up on the clouds either. It's energy. It's core energy. It's essence. It's real. It's who you really are. It's what you really are. You are this divine essence. You're a divine human being. Yeah, we're in this body. It's our meat suit. But when we pass away, what is it? 28 ounces? When you weigh a body before it dies and after it dies, it's 28 ounces difference.
Yeah, something like that.
Always, right? I don't know anything, but I learn it. I keep going. I keep
So
going in.
let me ask this. If someone gets transmosis, like how often do they need to have it done to keep the feeling or like the clearness?
It's a return to wholeness. And what's another word for wholeness is peace, because we get traumatized or fractured or whatever, and we're all in these different pieces. And then this just kind of like pulls everything back together and cleans it up. It's like taking a shower, but it's a spiritual shower of light and sound that comes through my voice. So I had a friend who I didn't know it at the time, but she was passing away with cancer. And I saw her every week. And I had a women's group here in Santa Fe at the house. And I worked with this woman, and it was profound, and she loved it, and it was great, but she never came back. And so I kind of reported this out to my women's group, and I'm like, if it's so great, how come people don't come back? And she said, oh my God, Tracey, do you realize that you worked with me 8 months ago and I am still integrating that session? I'm like, really? Okay. So it's not anything I'm doing wrong. It's up to the person. So I started adding to my energy map, like, when should this person return? Some people in 2 weeks, some people in 3 months, once a year, once every 2 years, twice a year. I leave it up to the person, because it's the person's consciousness, like I said before, where the alchemy happens. If the person's ready, willing, and able, and really wants to make changes in their life and is really open to receiving the divine grace that comes. See, the divine's not going to give you more than you can handle. You know how they say that, God never gives you more than you can handle, kind of thing. I really believe that's true. So there is no answer, because I don't say, hi, you need to come back in 1 week. I don't. I just leave it up to the person's own inspiration. And that's probably a really bad marketing plan on my part, but I'm not pushy. It's sacred work. And when that person knows that they want to come back, they come back. So there is no prescribed timing of it.
I wouldn't say that's bad marketing though, because I mean, that's the stuff that like chiropractors do that people hate, when it's like, oh, I just fixed you, come back next week for another one. And it's like,
right.
Like I went to a chiropractor when I was a teenager for years on a weekly basis, and it's just so much money just for them to crack your back, and then you literally need it again like 20 minutes later. Like your back eventually just snaps back to where it was. Like it's never permanent. And but the fact that you don't, the fact that you don't push them to come back is the good thing, because then they're going to feel more welcome to come back when they want to come back. Then they're not going to feel forced.
Yeah. No, never. That would be against, what is it? Probably divine law or something like that. No. I'm more in the divine feminine realm of that, even though I was more like a guy, like in work and stuff like that, being a male and doing everything like that. But I'm really learning to soften and to trust. The biggest thing is trusting your own intuition. If I could share with your readers, I have a book.
I was just going to ask about that.
See, we're in sync. I love it. Yeah, this 2 other ladies and myself wrote a book, and it's called The Magi Within, Unlocking the Gifts of the Inner Self. And it's a workbook, and it's a fun workbook, and it has 26 chapters, meaning A through Z. So each chapter is like, A is for awareness, K is for kindness, Z is 0 point. X was kind of hard, but we have X factor for that. And we each wrote, and what's so cool is that there were 3 of us, and we created a template, And we found a quote on the internet that had to do on the topic like of kindness or something like that. And then we had 4 questions to ask the reader to think about, because it expands energy. When you ask open-ended questions, it kind of makes you think and open up to other possibilities and not be all limited. And then we wrote about kindness and stuff. So what this book does is it helps the person reading it to get in touch with their own intuition, their own inner nature. So let's say, well, think of a letter, Jeremy. What letter do you pick right now? Any letter.
I mean, Jeremy starts with a J, so that's usually what I go with.
Joy. So you would like open up the book to the chapter on joy, and we all did paintings of it. So like, how do you draw joy? Well, what we did, and they're activating this artwork. It's acrylics and stuff, but it's a yellow background with just tons of circles like bubbling up with joy. It's really fun. So in the book, you can look at the painting, the print in the copy of the book, but you can have it for free. This is also another bad marketing program that I have, but on my website, TraceyWhittet.com, you can go to the book part of the website and put your name and email in, and you can open up and look at the PDF. It's not the same, but you could look at it on your computer, or you could print it out and you'd have it that way if funds are an issue for you. Or you can go to Amazon and buy it for whatever, $17 or whatever it is. But it's really fun, and it's just designed to help humanity. I like the grassroots effort. I like working with individuals.
Yeah.
And helping them change for the better, for themselves. And because if you raise your own consciousness, then you're raising consciousness for all of us. What is that? There's some saying about a tide and all boats rise or something like that. I mean, we're all in this together. It's all one thing. It's all love. And it's mostly about loving ourselves and reconnecting to ourself. People in AA call it the higher self.
Yeah.
There's so many words for it. I call it source, my intuition, my inner knowing. And in our book, we call it the inner magi because it's fun. We were 3 wise women, so we called it the magi within. Like in Christianity, it's the 3 wise men, where we're 3 wise women. It's fun. And there's a meditation to kind of get you in the space of it. And then you read the chapter, and then you just kind of be with it. And then you can journal in the book, or you can get your own notepad or journal and work with yourself, because that's what it's about. It's about empowering each other to be the best that we can be. Not that we're an Army commercial, but really it's to be the best that we can be, to be fully whole, to be fully happy. That's why we came here, to help each other. And
yeah, I mean, you want to unlock your full potential. That's what it is. You want to unlock your full potential.
Yes. So there's so many things, and I just incorporated all under this umbrella called Transmosis. Whether it's access consciousness, that's another awesome energy work, body of work with Gary Douglas and Dane here. It creates change easily and effortlessly. I bet you've heard of reflexology, right? Where they massage your feet.
I've heard of it. I can't say I've ever had it done or that I've ever really looked into it. But
so it's like every nerve in your body goes to your feet. Yep. So like in the very center of your foot, let's say the left foot, you push in the very center of your foot, right below the ball of your foot. And that's like the kidney area. And one time when I had reflexology done, she went right on the back of my big toe. She was like pushing in, and I'm like, I could feel it in my head. So maybe that's what you need, is reflexology for that feeling that you get in your head. But it's like your pituitary opening up. The pineal gland, that's your connection to the all-seeing God, to see everything. Your pituitary gland in the very center of your head, that's your third eye. That opens up your sight, things like that. So everything's all connected, and I just access bars. So like there's 32 points on the head, all around, kind of like all around the edge of your head. And I love bald heads today because I can see their bars, points. But temples, if you put your fingers on either side of your temple, it's like an energetic bar. It's going back and forth between my fingertips. And that's the healing point. So I could teach about access consciousness, but it creates change with ease and joy. It makes it really easy so that you're not thinking limited anymore. You're unlimited. And they just run your bars. It's really great. It's really great. So in your area, I'm sure there's a accessconsciousness.com bars person that, you can have your bars run, and that'll change your life for the better, for sure.
Absolutely. I don't see stuff like that in my area, really. I mean, I live up on the Northeast, and like where I live, I don't see that type of stuff. I mean, maybe if I drove an hour east towards Salem, maybe.
So you're in Massachusetts?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's funny because I don't interview many people from Massachusetts who do spiritual work. Like, I don't think I've ever interviewed one person from Massachusetts who does spiritual work. Well, actually, okay, that's not true. Because I interviewed someone from Salem who does a lot of different stuff, and energy work is definitely one of the things she does, but she's also a master with a lot of other talents as well. So
yeah, and Salem with the witches and all that stuff, it's just interesting. But if you went to the internet and you went in accessconsciousness.com and you looked up your state, I bet you'd find some people nearby if you look for it.
I'll have to look into it. I'll have to look into it, definitely.
Yeah, it's a nice gift to yourself. They just hold points on your head, and you just relax and receive, and your life has changed for the better forever.
Well, let me ask you this then. Transmosis Healing, can anybody do it, or do you have to kind of be born with something?
I personally believe anyone can do it. I am really wanting to help heal the world, but I can't do it myself. So I'm writing another book called Transmosis Healing, Realizing Wholeness. It's not out yet. I have to experiment with it because it has to be the right frequency of person, somebody that really wants to do this for themselves and for others. Because like I said, it's not like psychic work. It's sacred. It's soul work. It's really deep. And the person usually has to be feeling very purified and cleansed. And I do believe anyone can do it, but I don't know why or how I came in with this gift. Yeah. But I think that my mission and vision here is to teach it to the world, or those that are interested. I don't think it's something for the masses, the everyday consumer. It's usually people that are interested in consciousness, higher consciousness, that are on an accelerated growth path, and they just want to learn more about it. So I'm going to create an online course. I've started creating it, but I haven't launched it yet. I have to create a lot of videos, and I'd like to do it in person, but I also want to be able to reach everybody. So that's why I want to make it both medias, online as well as in person.
Plus, if people want to do it bad enough, they'll travel to you.
There you go. Thanks for that vote of confidence. Come on down.
I know plenty of people who travel all over the country to go to different retreats and stuff in different classes on how to do different spiritual energy work, and they love it. They live for it. I mean, with my co-host that you saw earlier, I can't really travel that often unless it's like a 1 night or 2 night thing locally. But I don't.
Right.
I don't get out of the house that often. But especially now. Especially now that I'm not working, I can't really.
Oh, treasure that time. They're so treasurable at that time, at any time. But she came here for a reason through you. So there.
Exactly.
She's going to be a co-host.
Oh, God help me. God help me. Maybe in 10 years. Maybe. Hopefully, but maybe in 10 years I can hand off the podcast to her and say, I gave you a 10-year podcast. Keep it going.
Take it, girlfriend. Yeah. That's awesome.
Actually, I don't know if I can ever give it up. I really don't. It'd be a hard thing to do. I love this show.
You seem to really love it. Yeah.
I do. I like getting people like you who want to share their knowledge of this world out there. I like able to get that information out there for everybody to hear. And I do promote and market. I market the crap. I'm a marketer. Like, I went to school for it. So I am good at marketing things so that people will hear it. And that's what I do. So, and
you're a natural. That's great.
It's a way for me to use my abilities for that but not for evil means, for good means. Like, not for a corporation,
but for
small people who need it.
I feel you. I know. Yes. Well, good. You're doing good work in the world. Thank you.
I'm trying. I've had people tell me too. It's like me tell me in the show too. Like this is your purpose. Like your purpose is to get people like me out there. It's your purpose. It's your purpose to be the middleman. And I'm like, oh, I like to hear myself talk, so that makes sense.
A communicator. You're a great communicator.
Oh, exactly. But tell my audience one more time where they can find you, where they can find your book, and just basically promote yourself to the fullest.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm here to serve. So if anyone feels drawn and resonates with the word transmosis, or even me, whatever, that's great. I would love to work with you. It works great on Zoom. If you're here locally in Santa Fe, New Mexico, come on over, make an appointment. So I have a website, and it's my name, TraceyWhittet.com. And I'll spell it for those that are maybe listening on audio or something. It's TraceyWhittet.com. And then you can get The Magi Within, Unlocking the Gifts of the Inner Self, on the book tab. And right on the front page, I try and describe what Transmosis Healing is about, like who, what, when, where, why, and how often you need to come back and things like that. And you don't need to ever come back. If one is enough, great. I mean, that would be my goal, to help someone to the fullest in one session. But who knows? It's not up to me. It's up to the divine. So there's a schedule button right there, and you can schedule in person or on Zoom. And I am here to help you and clear out anything that is in the way, that's preventing you from, like, you just know there's something there, but you don't know what it is. Maybe that we can help you with the energy work that we do to clear it out. And maybe it's not even yours. Maybe it's your parents, whatever. We'll just clean it all up with the light tools. So TraceyWhittet.com. And then I'm on social media in the same way, like Tracey Whittet. You can find me that way on Facebook and Instagram. I'm not a big poster, but when I do like these podcasts with people, I do post those on YouTube, etc. So anyway, it's just been a real pleasure to share Transmosis with you guys. Thank you.
It's been an honor having you. And I will of course post your website right in the description of the podcast too, so people can just copy and paste or click and go, however it ends up happening. But because Anchor likes to play with things and not always do things the same way for some reason. But you can, of course, as all my listeners know, you can find me as Paranormal the New Normal / Maniacal Music Musings podcast with the S group on Facebook. You can find me on Twitter and the Gram as @JuggaloBastard. You can find me on TikTok as @JuggaloBastard Podcast, and you can find me on YouTube as Paranormal the New Normal, where this is streaming right now. Well, one of my destinations. But I want to thank Tracey for coming on, because it's been an amazing show, and I got to learn about something new today, which I love. I love learning about new spiritual stuff. I love it. So
nice.
But
thank you.
To all my listeners, I'll be back in half a week. And for all those who watch, thank you for watching. And I will see you guys soon. Have a good night. And one last time, thank you, Tracey.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.